Guys, companies will produce things that are sometimes out of what I typically would expect from them. This is a knife from Cinnamon, which is a company that has provided some really, really good $30 and under knives that really were amazing. This thing is kind of outside of what I was expecting. This is the Cinnamon ST999. We're going to take a look at this purple beast from above. All right, guys, like we said in the intro, this is a very, very surprising knife. Now, this is a Citizen knives. Now, you guys do know we've had a couple of Citizen knives on the channel before, and they are very, very budget friendly. This is my first impressions video, so I have not looked up price, specs, anything like that. So this is basically just a blind first day in use review. And I got to say, I'm pretty impressed with it. So what are we looking at? Well, just from what we can tell by the blade, this is the ST999 by Citizen. It is done in S35 VN. It is also titanium, obviously, because it's been anodized purple, and carbon fiber. And I got to say, this is one of the most striking knives we've had come in a while. Typically not a fan of this purple kind of anodizing, but on this knife, it really, really looks good. You're looking at a really nicely done blade with a fuller that runs almost the full length of the blade. Well, basically the full length of the grind that you can reverse flick off of. And it also has got a top flipper that works pretty well. The blade has been ground in this S35 VN very nicely down to an extremely good behind the edge thickness for a knife like this. I've done a good bit of cutting with it this morning, and I found it to scream through all the cardboard. Today was recycling day, had to get the can out for the trash recycling day. And so I cut up a bunch of cardboard and just finished filling up my bin, and it just screamed through the heavy cardboard that I had here. The finish on the blade is a really nicely done, very nicely done stone wash. That's a finish that typically holds up really well and doesn't scratch up as much as some of the other finishes. The blade has got a nice drop point profile, and with that fuller, it looks really good. Like I said, done in a liner lock. Now, we got to talk about the action on this, because the action on this is just insanely good. This is probably the most drop shut knife I've had come in a very long time. Now, Citizen is known for doing very good budget knives, so I imagine this is going to be on the budget end of the spectrum, but that is so good. It is dangerously smooth. It is guillotine smooth. And like I said, that top flipper, you can hit it a bunch of different ways. The scales on it, the handles on it, really well done. Beautiful carbon fiber on this. They did just enough on this carbon fiber to get you the opalescence and pearlescence and reflection, but not be slick. The only knife that I think has better carbon fiber on it that's at the house right now is that KATSU knives. I'll put a picture of that one up so you can see. This thing is amazingly good in hand. Super comfortable. It's got a very cool futuristic look to it, but it does not give up anything in the comfort realm. There's no real jimping to speak of on it. There's a little bit there, but that is because that is the top of your front flipper. And so it's not really there for grip in this use. So nice and smooth in hand. The handles on it are done really well. I have liked a lot of the knives that are doing like the carbon fiber back, or not carbon fiber, but the micarta backspacers and stuff like this. But on a titanium frame or liner lock like this, it looks really good to have the anodized titanium backspacer. And instead of putting an ugly hole in what is a very attractive knife, they've given you a lanyard post. Pocket clip in and out of pocket has been great. It's nice and smooth. It's not a hot spot at all. When you get it in hand, it just melts into your hand. Almost can't even tell it's there. Just ever so slightly, you can feel it up here in that part of your hand. And then as far as comfort goes, nicely softened edges on the blade. So when you're up on this and you're pushing down to cut, you don't have any real hot spots to speak of. There's no sharp edges on this. The only real sharp edge on the blade is this edge of this fuller that you use to catch your nail to do the reverse flick. So they have done very little weight reduction on this, but it is nice and light. And I do like the fact that this is similar to a sub frame lock. It is a liner lock that has been screwed into the titanium, and you've got pretty good access to the lock bar. Now we'll talk about that in a minute because it took a little bit to get used to. So, and then you have these beautiful pivot collars on this. So you've got all this color. You got the black, you got the purple, you got the blue. I'm really digging this. Like I said, typically not a fan of this kind of a color scheme, but on this knife, it really works. So that being said, there are a couple negative things I have found about this knife. So we'll flip this around. We'll talk about the little bit of negative right after you guys hear from my channel sponsor, Coffee Brand Coffee. Guys, did you know that Coffee Brand Coffee has more than just awesome on-demand roasted coffees and flavored coffees? They also have tea, cocoa, cold brew bags, decaf, and they have premium candies that will make your family go nuts. So check them out with the link down below to save 10% on some of the best coffee you're going to find. So yeah, big shout out to Coffee Brand Coffee for sponsoring this video. There are very few things that I've found that I don't like about this knife. It has got a weird weight distribution. It's fairly light in hand, it's fairly light, but I don't like the balance. The balance is much more, butt heavy back towards the back past the pivot. I'm typically a fan of a more of a neutral or forward. Now a lot of these are just my personal opinions. Next thing, as comfortable as the pocket clip is and everything, it's a single point pocket clip and they didn't do a great job. It's kind of just surface mounted on here. If they had socketed that out, you wouldn't have this. The pocket clip definitely moves. I tried tightening it down, thinking maybe that would help with the pocket clip. I have a feeling that pocket clip's going to work its way loose, and it doesn't take a lot for something like this. I mean, you can see they ever so slightly cut in for that to sit in, but it's not enough to prevent it from moving. Next thing, this area here in positioning, I think this knife needed a flipper tab to act as a finger guard, because a couple times I have gotten up on that and almost cut myself today. Because I'm sure I'll get used to it over the time. It is really comfortable there in that grip because you're all the way up for cutting, but positioning yourself, you have no way to index really and feel that you're not up against that. So if you happen to flip that knife open and then grab it, see what I'm saying? You can get right in there. And that is a very, very sharp blade. The next thing is the liner lock. You have really good access to it. You've got really good access to it because they opened that up there. But it feels very unusual. This might be a put off for a lot of people. It's not something you can just like kick your thumb over. You have to make the conscious effort to put your thumb in that spot and push out on the point of that. Now, it does not take a lot to disengage it, and I did get used to it. So you do have good access to it. It just is a little unusual. That might be off-putting to some. And one of the final things here, this is a very thin, very, very thin liner on this. So I don't know how I feel about that. That liner looks almost dangerously thin, but I have done a good bit of testing. I don't spine whack because spine whack is a stupid test, but putting some pressure on the spine of the blade to see if that lock, always keeping your fingers out of the way, seeing if that lock flexes or it tries to slip, I've seen none of that. So I gotta say, I don't think it's going to be an issue, but it just, for the first time I've carried it, I find that just a little off-putting that liner lock is so thin. And then one final thing, they did such a good job on this side of getting these scales up and even and clean. And then there's just kind of a hard edge right there. It's not something that's a hot spot, but that's just an aesthetic thing for me where I can see that hard edge where that's sticking up. And I just don't necessarily like it. I do overall, so far, love this knife a lot. This is a very, very good knife. The Citizen knives have always been great. I've had a couple of them come in. They have been awesome budget knives. Don't know the price point. I imagine this one's a good bit more expensive than like their $30 options just because of the materials. So let's turn us around. We'll do some final thoughts and send you out about your day. Yeah, guys, there you go. This thing is great. I am really impressed with this. We'll see how it pans out over the time. Now, as time has went on, because I'm filming this outro significantly after I filmed the body of the video, I have gotten even more accustomed to the lock mechanism on this. So that is probably going to get taken off the list of things when we do the final review. But we'll carry this for a couple of weeks. We'll see how I feel about it. There might be some things that change. There might be some things that I add to the list of things that I do and don't like about it. So other than that, guys, that's the end of this one. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down. Tell me why. I can't change the content if you don't tell me what you don't like. Sponsors for the video, you know, I've always put ads for Coffee Brand Coffee. They're my primary sponsor. I also have Tempered Trail. Down below, there are links for both of those companies that have the discount built in. Coffee Brand Coffee is currently 10%. I think that's the same over at Tempered Trail. You can also use the coupon code CrazySharp, all one word, at either one of those, plus the following vendors, FarronForgeKnifeWorks.com and Rosecraft Blades for a discount there. I've got an Amazon store down below. Take that, pin it to browser, use it for any shopping you're going to do. I've built a Discord for everyone it's available to everyone now. I'll make sure that that's in the description of the video. I also have got a membership that has its own private Discord. Everyone that's a member gets early access to my videos. They get access to the Discord server. They get videos that I put up that are exclusively for members, exclusive content. Baseline and premium guys are entered into giveaways that I do on the Gilded server, and the premium guys have access to a sharpening tutorial series here on YouTube behind that paywall. So there you go, guys. That's it on this one. I love you all. Keep it clean in the comments section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And I'll see you in the next video.